Welcome to Bull TV, where we are bullish on Collierville. I'm your host, David Pickler. Bull TV is a monthly show that empowers, educates, and entertains while highlighting the citizens of Collierville who inspire and deliver solutions for a stronger community. Bull TV is presented by Pickler Companies and is proudly produced by the students of Collierville High School. We invite you to watch our show at www.bulltv.show, thebullnetwork.com, and CHS TV 19. New episodes air on the second Sunday of every month at 3 p.m. Central Time. On today's show, we sit down with Andrew Douglas, anchor and reporter with WMC Action News 5. Join us for this inside look at how Andrew handles the unique challenges and opportunities that come with being a TV personality. Don't miss this episode as we take a deep dive into Andrew's career, his interest, and the integrity that he displays both on air and off. Today I'm joined by Andrew Douglas. Andrew is an award-winning anchor and reporter at WMC Action News 5 and is proud to live in Collierville and raise his family here. He has been here for more than 15 years and has spent more than 25 years in the broadcast industry, working at stations across Georgia, Florida, Ohio, and Tennessee. He's covered everything from hurricanes and tornadoes to presidential debates and the NASA program. His work has been honored by the Associated Press, Society of Professional Journalists, and the Emmys. Andrew has interviewed all kinds of people from all kinds of backgrounds, including former Vice President Dick Cheney, ZZ Top, Garth Brooks, the late civil rights photographer Ernest Withers, actor John Travolta, country star Kenny Chesney, and Martin Luther King III. His wife Tina is a native Memphian, and both of his children have gone through the Collierville school systems. Andrew grew up in South Florida, but chose Memphis for his home. His family are big sports fans and root for the Memphis Grizzlies, Memphis Tigers, the Redbirds, and 901 Football Club, and the Collierville Dragons. Andrew, thank you for joining us for Bull TV.
David, it's great to be here. Appreciate it very much.
Glad to have you. Well, you know, you are, I feel like we were doing a little bit of a mixed role here.
I know.
I think I should be interviewing you, or you should be interviewing me. This is great.
I've done it so many times on your seat, so okay, you're flipping it.
There we go. So we're going to see if we can roast you. No, just But one of the things that we've done with every one of our guests over the past year and a half is we begin with asking in 3 words, who is Andrew Douglas?
Honest, effective, and relatable.
Very good.
Yeah.
I think you've done your homework.
You know, that's what came to my mind. Just popped in.
There we go. We'll go with that. So, Andrew, you've lived in a number of different places, but what is really your favorite part of living here in Collierville?
In Collierville, it's got to be the people. Going out and seeing everybody, whether it's at the local game or in a restaurant, going to the gym. The people are fantastic, and the neighborhoods, where we live and where other people live. It's just it is a wonderful community, no matter where you live, and it continues to grow and get better.
It's a phenomenal place to live.
It is. And
it's great to have you as such a great ambassador.
Yeah.
We're thrilled to have that. Andrew, there's no question that you are an absolute pro, when it comes to being on this side of the camera. For more than two decades of TV journalism, how did you discover this to be your calling, and what led you down this path?
It's a good question. I was on the debate team in high school, so there was a lot of public speaking, really had no problem getting up, talking, debating in front of my peers. And so that's a large part of it, just getting in front of somebody and talking. And then, so I knew I was good at public speaking, and then I had a family member that was involved in a Supreme Court case.
Oh.
And so I thought, okay, maybe we want to do something in journalism, in TV, because I did some radio, but I really like the TV medium better.
Mm-hmm.
So,
very good.
Yeah.
You know, as most anchors do, you've moved around a fair amount. You've been in some different markets, but clearly you settled down here in the Mid-South, and we're really glad that you're here. Why did you choose Memphis, or actually, did Memphis just choose you?
So I went to school at the University of Florida, and then after graduation, typically, and everyone's path is a little bit different. So, you know, you could ask 25 people in my newsroom, and they all have 25 different paths to how they got there. After Florida, I went to Columbus, Georgia, started there, 90 minutes south of Atlanta, not much goes there. Fort Benning is there. Mm-hmm. And then I went to East Tennessee and was in Orlando for a while as a reporter. But when I was in Dayton, Ohio, in 2005, 2006, I was ready to move on, but I wanted to make a calculated move. My wife, we had just had a couple of kids. We were married, and we were looking at different places. In 2006, I had offers in South Florida, West Palm Beach, Indianapolis, and Memphis. And we just kind of looked at it, and Memphis was the best offer, and just really haven't looked back. It's been great. I mean, Tina has a great job at FedEx, and we just love it here, and it's worked out beautifully.
That's fantastic. As a bit of a follow-up, when y'all were going through this research, and I love the process you went through, what were the things that stood out for you about the opportunity in Memphis and why you went choosing go in that direction?
So 2006. I mean, it's interesting because it's similar to what we're dealing with now. A lot of things were high. You know, prices were high. You know, we're looking at cost of living adjustments and what kind of offers were out there. It was, you know, South Florida is where I grew up, and Memphis is where my wife grew up. So it was kind of like, okay, my hometown versus her hometown. But in actuality, the job and the station was much better established here than it was in West Palm. And I talked to some folks who were working at the West Palm Beach station, and they told me kind of off the record, hey, listen, you don't want to come here. You want to go somewhere else. I said, wait a second, you've gotten promoted and you're doing well here? And this person I went to college with said, yeah, but, you know, I'm kind of stuck here. You don't want to come here. And so that just opened the doors because the Memphis leadership team at WMC sweetened the deal even more because they knew I was looking elsewhere. And it just worked out. I mean, once I got here, I mean, I was a reporter, nightside. We talked a bunch of times. I was interviewing you frequently and interviewing a lot of people, all the big players. Willie Harrington was in office, so there was a lot to talk about every night, it seemed. And it was really interesting, and it really kind of helped me further my career. And so, you know, I've been morning anchor now since 2009, and I haven't really looked back.
That's fantastic. Yeah. You know, of course, WMC Channel 5 has such an incredible history in this community. You probably don't know this, but I actually got my start at Channel 5 many, many years before you did. Okay. When I was a kid, I was actually was one of the studio guests on the Happy Hal show back in the 1960s.
Wow. Okay, Happy Hal. Was that wasn't the clown, was it?
I think he was a clown, yes.
Okay. I hear that so many times. That must have been a popular show.
Oh, yeah. In fact, I think I had to go to a local McDonald's to sign up to be on that.
That's so great.
But the thing that I remember about going there was at the same time I was being interviewed, there was a minor star by the name of Sybil Shepherd who was being interviewed at the same time.
Wow. Yeah, it's Sybil Shepherd right next to you. That's great. I love that.
But, you know, we talked about some of the people that you have interviewed. You know, this very impressive resume when it comes to interviewing some very notable individuals. You've talked to musicians, actors, politicians, activists. With so many of these celebrities, what has been the most impactful interview that you've had in your career?
It's a really good question, David. You know, and I giving it some thought. Probably the most impactful interviews are those where you are talking to family members of people who have lost a a relative in their law enforcement officers or their U.S. military members. Oftentimes at WMC, we will do fundraisers for a police officer who is killed in the line of duty. And so we are talking to the family. And it is it is a tragic thing. I mean, you can't imagine, but it's very impactful, not only to them, but to the community. And going forward, it is something I'm proud to say that WMC does all the time. And so whether it's a military, a U.S. troop member, service member that's been killed in action, or a law enforcement officer, and unfortunately, over the 15 years, we've had several, talking to those family members and being able to raise money and then give it to the survivor family members, that's probably one of the most impactful things that I've been a part of.
Wow, and talk about being significant to those families at that time. And well, really, kudos to you, kudos to Action News 5 for doing that. And that's the kind of thing that people don't know about. Yeah. And because you're doing it for the right reasons, for the right thing, below the radar. But congratulations for making such a difference in those families' lives at exactly the right time they need it.
Thank you. And it's WMC. That was a policy for a number of years, and fortunately, we haven't had anything recently. But even when there's a mass situation where there's multiple family members that die in a fire, or what happened to Leicester Street. We raised money for those kids that were affected, injured, and so it is something that I'm proud to call WMC home because of some of the work that they do in the community, and that's included.
Well, it's so important that you talk about that because obviously we had an experience here in Collierville last September with the shooting at Kroger, and there were so many horrible things that happened that day, but there's so many amazing things that came out of that experience. The way that we saw the community come together, the Collierville Strong concept, the way that the police and fire and first responders all worked together. But there also was another group. There's a group called the Collierville Compassion Fund that went out and raised literally hundreds of thousands of dollars to be able to provide support for all of those who are impacted by that. And that, to me, is one of the things that makes this community so very special.
I loved doing that story where we were able to cover the Compassion Fund and how it just came together. Grassroots organization. Right. It was so organic. How, you had this horrible tragedy, September 23rd of last year, and this group, and it just shows the love and compassion that this community has in Collierville to come together and say, listen, we're going to stop everything, what we're doing. This is the most important thing going on right now. And it really, it affected everybody. It affected everyone that lived in Collierville, certainly, but everyone in this whole region. What happened that day, it was unexplainable, and it was the unthinkable. And to see Collierville come together and rally around each other, it is truly a Collierville Strong moment.
Without question. When we think about the profession that you chose, and being a journalist does grant someone a lot of access, you might even say a lot of power. You have the unique ability to tell stories to thousands of people, to shape the narrative however really you see fit. It's a lot of power. Can you discuss the importance of integrity when it comes to your career?
Very important. So you have, it's paramount because you have, when you deal with a situation, it is at least two sides to every story. A lot of times it's more than two sides. And you have to tell this issue and this certain event or this conflict in a way that is fair, impartial, and objective. And maybe it's just me. I look at it from a very critical eye, but I feel like that emphasis on impartiality and fair and objectivity is somewhere missing in a lot of platforms, particularly national platforms. There tends to be not the two sides or more. What I like about local news, and I love local news, is that, and by the way, over 90% of our product is local. We focus on infrastructure, potholes, jobs, schools, neighborhoods. And a lot of times that is apolitical. That is something where you can talk about it and you really just get into the meat of the issue. Unfortunately, there's some things that really kind of cloud people's judgments. And, it's so important to really just focus in on the issues, report the issues, and then let the audience kind of see it for themselves.
Well, I've used the term pro about you on many occasions, but now we're going to go a little different side.
Okay.
A little more of a lighter note. Definitely, it's important to bring joy from time to time, whether intentional or not.
Yeah, no question.
and so to your viewers, is there a moment that you can remember that maybe say you lost a little bit, you laughed uncontrollably, or had a bad case of the hiccups, or something? Let's go behind the scenes with Andrew Douglas for a second.
You may have been watching early in the morning, David, because you mentioned the hiccups thing. So I'm human just like anybody else, okay? So I was taking this medication because I wasn't feeling well. The doctor said, take this for a couple of days. You know how it goes. And so for whatever reason, I was having a reaction, and the reaction was hiccups. And so I'm going through the morning, and it's 3 hours. We're reading, we're talking, we're moving, we're talking about different things, serious stuff, lighthearted stuff. But we're talking, and I have the worst case of hiccups. I'm not a teenager. It's just people are watching and they think something's wrong with me. Why is he stuttering? What is going on? Who is this? What is happening? And so we just finally addressed it. My co-anchor, she said, okay, you got the hiccups. Everyone knows, here's what you do. And so that happened. And I think she said, my co-anchor said, why don't you tell us your best remedy for hiccups? We were flooded with calls and emails and texts and what have you for hours. Mm-hmm. And the poor producers that were in the newsroom having to answer all the phones, they're like, what is happening right now? What's going on? And everyone's and weirdest stuff. Like, there was one person who thought, if you look, I'm hearing the, drink water and scare and, all that stuff. There was one person that called, and I think they were just playing around. They said, you have to look at 11 bald men and then blink your eyes for a minute, and then you'll have no hiccups. I'm like, are we serious now? Or are we just pulling my leg here? So that was probably, most recently, that was it. Sometimes we'll have impromptu moments where, we did a story about, lottery tickets and the Powerball was 500 million or something. And, Joy asked me really quickly, what would you do if you won the Powerball? And I think she was probably thinking yachts and different things, houses. And I just said, I'd call in sick. And she lost it. And when Joy loses it and she starts laughing, it is like the heartiest belly laugh. Like, you can't hold back from that. It is so funny. And so that was kind of a fun moment.
That is great.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure every day behind the news desk presents its own set of unique challenges.
Sure.
Teleprompter snafus, we are with that, or also covering very highly sensitive breaking news that comes about. What is the most challenging part of your job as a TV anchor?
So I work the mornings, and the alarm goes off at 2:30 in the morning. That is very challenging. And so I get, alarm goes off at 2:30. I get into the office a little bit before 4 o'clock. We go on the air at 5. So that shift is a challenging one on the front end. On the back end, it's great. I got the whole day. I leave at about noon. It's great. So the sleep aspect to it is always been challenging. But the other thing is, I love my job so much. I have a decent amount of coffee, so I'm ready to go. I think another challenging part, David, is that, and you might relate to this. You are so happy to be and so excited to go to work and be at work that you're disappointed when other people aren't amped up like you are. Like, right. I'm ready to go. Let's go. Let's have a good time. We're going to do it. We're going to fire it up. Everyone's going to be watching. It's going to be a great show. And everyone's looking at me like, this guy's crazy. What's he doing? This is terrible. Wait, who is this guy? Tell him to shut up. But no, it's so. I think if I were to say, it's the sleep schedule, and then it's making sure that everyone is at the same level when it comes time to showtime, you know.
Well, again, you probably don't know this about me, but when the local Fox affiliate came to Memphis back in the early 90s for a minute, a brief time period, I was their morning market guy.
Really?
And
didn't know. You're right.
So yeah, I was on Fox News 13, and was with. I would have to write my own material the night before, send it in, hope it made it to the teleprompter.
Excellent.
About half the time it did, half the time it didn't. So I remember those 2:30 wake up calls.
Sure. Oh yeah, no doubt.
The difference for me is I still had to work till 6 or 7 o'clock at night.
I know. Oh my gosh.
That's why it was only for
brutal.
A couple of months.
Yeah.
Well, you talk about the great mood that you come in. But how do you cope when you're having a bad day? You know, what are the things that you do, and when all of a sudden that on-air light comes on there and you're just not feeling it?
So, I guess I'm always, if I'm unprepared, then that's when I'm having a bad day, if I'm unprepared. If I'm prepared, no problem. I don't get nervous. I don't get anxious. As long as I'm prepared, we could be talking to any head of state anywhere in the world, no problem, as long as I'm prepared. And I try to be prepared every time I'm on the air. If I'm having a bad day, or I had a bad day, or things just didn't work out, because we all have them. Mm-hmm. I'll go to Lifetime Fitness and just do a really strong workout. Yep. And then that just gets out all the bad juju, and you get going, and maybe a steam room after that, and then I'm okay. I'm ready, relaxed, ready to hit it again tomorrow. And another great amenity of Collierville. Exactly. I mean, Lifetime Fitness is like, it is a country club practically. No question. It's nice, yeah. I've been a member for I think since it opened. 2008, 2009, something like that. Yeah, it's a fantastic facility. And I know now they are kind of expanding their pickleball. Yes. One of the fast growing sports here in this community. Huge. Last month we talked to Maureen Frazier, and she was talking about the challenges in Collierville to try to find the facilities for all of these emerging sports that are coming up. Right, yeah. Maureen's great. And pickleball, yeah, they have like all kinds of different courts set up for pickleball. It's great. It's great. Yeah. So when you think about your job at Action News 5, what aspect or initiative has really given you the most satisfaction? Meeting people, for sure. The people make the job great. And when you think about it, news is about people. Mm-hmm. It's about what happens to people, good or bad, and how people respond to certain things. And so meeting the people every day, and I think that's a large part, David. It's one of the reasons why I love getting out in the community and just doing all kinds of different events, because those are really worthwhile to me, and you get to be a part of so many amazing events all across Memphis, Collierville, Mid-South. It's great. You're obviously, Andrew, a very high energy guy. Sure. What really are you most passionate about? Passionate about? Well, let's see. I mean, it's God, family, country, right? Okay. So then, I love my family. I got my wife, which tomorrow, as we tape this, tomorrow will be our 21st anniversary. Okay. So, rock on. There we go. And got 2 kids. My daughter's a freshman at Mizzou. My son is a junior here at Collierville High School, and so they're a blast. I love going to visit Sophia up in Missouri. Columbia is a great town. Nick and we hit the links all the time at golf, or we'll go to a Grizzlies game. Memphis National, by the way, in Collierville. There we go. 2 18-hole courses. So, but for the most part, sports. I love to eat, so I love to cook. Foodie, just like everybody else pretty much in this town. It seems like everybody's a foodie. I'm Greek, so the Memphis Greek Festival is big to me. I go to Annunciation Greek Orthodox Church in Memphis, where the festival is each and every year, May 20th, by the way. And so, I guess those are some of the things. Well, we have a great Greek steakhouse in Collierville as well. Yes, Jim's Place Grill. Love those guys. Of course, I always try to give them a shout out as much as I can. I'll try to help you out here. Yes. Thank you. James Terrace and Mimi Terrace, they're wonderful. And I mean, they just celebrated 100 years in business. I mean, that should be on the calling card. I mean, when you're in business for that long as a restaurant, you're doing something right. And every time, I mean, every time I go in there, and it's one of those unique experiences, David. You can go there as casual as you want, go to the bar, watch a game, or you could be formal, dressed up in the dining room. You still get a great meal. It's so good.
Absolutely. And again, very community-minded.
Yes.
In fact, they provided the dinner for our most recent Collierville Chamber of Commerce Awards Gala.
What a great event that was.
A great event it was, and honored some incredible people. Our Collierville Police Department.
Yes.
James Llewellyn, other folks, just amazing.
The governor
people.
was there.
The governor was there.
Yeah.
Great show.
Amazing stuff.
That's good stuff. You've talked a lot about what you do at Action News 5, WMC Action News 5. Why is journalism so important to you? Obviously, it's carrying it forward to your daughter now. So why is it so important to you?
You have so many different things that are happening in a community. You have police, you have fire, you have taxes, you have a government in place. And those people, they're not necessarily bad people. They just need to be held accountable. I think we all have to be held accountable.
Sure.
And so there's one of the biggest things that journalists do these days is being a watchdog and just being a check out there for your tax dollars. Where are they going? Where is the waste? Can we clean it up? What about schools? How is that money going? Is it enough? Should we change up the formula? This is recent stuff that's happened in the state of Tennessee and locally. And so all this impacts everybody's daily life, where we live, why we live here, property taxes, that sort of thing. Crime. No one wants crime in their neighborhoods. What's being done? The shootings on the interstate. I mean, who would have thought 5-10 years ago that there would be so many shootings on the interstate? I mean, 150 shootings in 2 years' time. So it's important for journalists to be there to ask the questions, identify the problem, and then come up with solutions. Paramount.
Very important. When I was thinking about this question, it go a couple different ways. We asked the question of, do you feel a sense of pressure when it comes to being a well-known TV personality? So I'm glad you answered that part, but also I'd like you to consider the role of television journalism and how it's become a sense of where the celebrity, in some cases, is the journalist, and how that can blur some of the lines.
It certainly can. The way I approach it, David, honestly, is I have a job just like anybody else in this room, and my job just happens to be on TV. But my job is unique in that it is not a 9-to-5 job per se. It is a 24-hour job. And so I'm constantly looking for different things and various aspects. And if there are things that are important or pertinent to our newsroom and our staff, I need to tell them no matter day or night what's happening. So you're right. The celebrity aspect, the blurred lines of being a journalist celebrity type is not something that it clouds the view, I guess I would say. It clouds the view of being a tried and true journalist who is trying to make their community better by solving problems or at least shining a light on, there's various aspects to being a journalist. And one of the things is making sure that you shine a light on some problems to get them fixed. Try and help solve these issues, being a voice for the little person, and at the same time being balanced and impartial when it comes to discussing issues that are very important. Yeah,
it's just so fascinating today because the world of media and the world of journalism has changed so dramatically. You think back 60 years ago of the Edward R. Murrows and the Walter Cronkites and the Humphrey Brinkley, and now there seems to be such a sense of celebrity, and where it seems again sometimes the journalist overshadows the journalism they're doing.
Sometimes that's the case. I mean, I got in it in about 95, 96, and it was very different back then to where we are now. So I've seen it evolve, and it's not evolving in the direction I'd like to see. Now, there are some moments where I see it and I go, okay, that was good. That was the right way to handle it. I mean, 2001, September 11th, the way the journalists went about handling that travesty, I thought it was excellent on many levels, and there was multiple layers of it. So there are examples of when journalists get it right. And so I think it's important, though, to always kind of, we have something at WMC, we always look back on what we've done, and we always say, okay, how could we have done this better? It could have been a flawless, newscast and a news story. How could we have done it better? And I think that more, whether you're on a national level, whether you're the top guy at the network making millions of dollars, hey, how could we have done this story better? And I've been in it 25 years, and I'm still a student. I'm still learning. The moment you stop learning, you need to get out.
Well, that's the perfect lead into the next question, because here we are, right here in the television studio at Collierville High School, a place that your daughter worked a year ago, a place your son worked now as a student. And so you were filming a student-produced show featuring a television personality, and it's like the planets have all kind of aligned for this moment. What you do for a living is what all of these kids are aspiring to do in their careers. So what career advice would you like to give to these students here in Collierville High School TV?
Got to work hard. It's competitive. There's no question. But everything is competitive. And so what you want to do is you want to go somewhere that if you really want to do this business and do it in an effective way, is you go to a place, the next level, which would be college. You go to a place where you feel comfortable and it has a lot of opportunity for the major that you want to get into, whether it's news, if you're in the broadcast field, operations, that sort of thing, and then immediately take advantage of those opportunities. Hard work, in my opinion, always pays off. It always pays off. And the more that you can find opportunities in your field, at your major, at your institution that has all these different facilities, the better you're going to be. Having a mentor, certainly that helps. That's icing on the cake. But right now, you got to work hard, focus on getting into that school that has a great opportunity. Mizzou, by the way, is where Sophia goes now, and I'm blown away by their journalism department. It's fantastic.
And it has been for many decades.
It has. It's the oldest journalism school in the country, and wow, they're really proud of it. And I'm amazed as a freshman, some of the things that she's doing. It's extraordinary.
That's fantastic. So you talked a little bit about some of the things that you enjoy doing. You talked about Lifetime. You talked about getting out, playing some golf. So what other activities do you enjoy doing in your spare time?
Love hanging with the fam. I don't get much family time because I'm always working, doing events. I do like, David, doing events. So, Collierville Chamber. I like to MC that event. That was such a great event last year, but also working with the Alzheimer's Association. My father has Alzheimer's, so that's near and dear to my heart. St. Jude is such an incredible place to go and volunteer time, and I've had the fortunate opportunity to MC some of their run walks and some of their events. It's been incredible, and you can go. We have those opportunities being at WMC to just kind of work in the community for organizations that do so much. I mean, the nonprofits, you know this, the nonprofits that make up the Mid-South, they are the unsung heroes. They do so many great things. And so, for example, I never really knew much about Suicide Prevention Action Network when I emceed a 5K at Shelby Farms, or it was at Botanic Garden, about 10 years ago. Wow. The amount of work that they do, and then the people that came up to me, and it was extraordinary. And some of the things that, they're trying to cope with, and then they're trying to help others. And it's just, I feel that, you have to give back, and that's one of the ways I give back.
I think it's so important. I mean, we talk about about giving back and paying forward.
Exactly.
And I believe that Memphis and Collierville certainly are communities of giving. And we're great communities of faith, but communities of giving.
Yes.
And certainly, as you talked about, your services. When you was the MC for the Chamber, I know you've been the MC for the Memphis Oral School for the Deaf, for the Speakeasy.
Yes.
And but the cool thing is all of the different organizations are out there that are making a difference in our community. And your service, has been a great and shining example of giving back and paying forward. And so thank you for what you're doing with all that. So when you think about all the things you've done, and you think about things you look for, what is at the top of Andrew Douglas's bucket list?
Bucket list. I have to say, if I were to name one thing, when the pandemic shut everything down, my wife was having a birthday, a significant one that ends in 0. And we had plans and everything was booked for Crete in Greece. Mm-hmm. Everything was booked. I had the hotel, the flights, everything. We haven't been able to take that trip. And so I think international travel right now is on the bucket list. I'd love to just go to Greece, mm-hmm. go to Europe, maybe Costa Rica. She lived there for 18 months, right out of school. And it's travel that really I've missed because I love going around and checking things out, and we just haven't been able to do that after this. During the pandemic, we're starting to come out of it. Hopefully, it becomes an official endemic, and we can start doing these things more often.
I think that's such an important thing. It's important for our economy, to get that service sector back, but it's important for people to be living again. And because I think you really said it well when we talk about going from pandemic to endemic. Yeah, we're learning, hopefully, to deal with COVID and the pandemic and understand it's probably going to be around in some form. Exactly. But we just got to learn how to overcome that challenge and live our lives.
Well, and so when we went, for example, in 2013, we went as a family to visit. My brother at the time was living in Munich, Germany. We stayed for a week, 10 days, and my kids still talk about that because you're going to a place, they don't speak your language. Mm-hmm. It's not the first language they speak. And it's just a completely different culture. You really get an idea of what culture's about when you go to this place that, they speak a different language, they do different things. And it was a wonderful visit. It was great. And we just need to do more of that.
Travel is such a great education for the kids and everyone. You've made such a great impact on our community, and you've made such a great impact for the entire Memphis viewing area with WMC Channel 5. What Colliervillian has made the greatest impact on your life?
Got to say, my wife Tina. I'm gonna get a high five at home, but no. In the honest truth, she's a native Memphian, and so you look back to when we were talking about Dayton, Ohio, and I was looking at different places. She sold me on Memphis when we were dating. We were dating there was a time we were dating long distance, and so she was here and I was elsewhere, and then. We've been married now 21 years. She is a rock star. I think she's amazing. I have a better time with her. She makes me a better person. And she has got a great job, marketing director of insights, innovation, and design at FedEx. Wow. So she's pretty high up there. She's my number one Colliervillian.
Well, you talked a little bit about to the students here at Collierville High School TV about some career advice. But we are filming here at this wonderful school, which I really think has just set such a standard for public education across the state. What would be the message that you would have for the students of Collierville High School as it relates to leadership?
Well, leadership, in my view, it isn't necessarily about a title. It's not necessarily about your job. It's about how you act. It's the actions you are taking and the impact you have with those actions. I think it's always important that you have to think of others before you think of yourself. And that's a hard thing to do. But the great leaders out there, they're the selfless ones that people remember the most. They think of other people. They think of people that are coming behind them or people that they're working with that they look for those people before they look at themselves. And so those great leaders out there make the whole area and make others better. That's the best leadership that I crave and I acknowledge is when someone walks into a room and they make that whole room of people better because they're there. It's extraordinary. It's rare. And if you could be one of those people, and then, be that genuine article, be authentic. Don't try to be somebody else. You know, there's a lot of people that said, oh, you know, you're just like this or you're just like that. Be yourself, be the genuine article, and never compromise your own standards, your own morals and convictions. That's so important too.
I've got to tell you, I've asked that question to every guest we've had on this show, and you bring such a unique perspective because of the people you interview, the people you come in contact with. And I want to tell you, I want to thank you for that answer because that is really insightful. And I really hope people listen.
Thank you.
Because you've seen, I'm sure, examples of leadership that falls short.
Yes. You see, the thing is, you see everything. You see good, you see okay, and then you see disastrous. So, but thank you. That kind words, I appreciate it.
Well, I appreciate you. So, years from now, when you begin to reflect back on your career, what would you like to be the legacy of Andrew Douglas?
That is a question, David. You're picking good questions. Must be back to those Fox 13 days. You know, you were on TV. Gosh, you know, let's see. That I was fair, that I was honest, and that I was a fun guy that was relatable to everyone. I'd like to think that I have, and my wife tells me a lot, that I always try to find common ground with anybody. You know, I try to have relatable things with everyone, but also being honest and fair and enjoyable to be around. You know, the last thing you want is someone who, you know, sucks up all the oxygen in the room and is not and is kind of a bore and always talking about themselves. That's the last thing you want. But you want somebody who is someone that you can trust. You know, that you understand where they're coming from, you relate to them, and that you know that okay, they're a good person, and you know, I can understand exactly what he's thinking and why.
Great answer. Andrew, I want to thank you for joining. This has been so enjoyable. Thanks for sharing your story with our viewers. Certainly, it's always fun talking about the world of TV journalism, and you definitely have a heart for delivering impactful stories, and I can just feel that coming through today. We're very much appreciative, especially that word integrity, the integrity, the kindness also that you bring to the world. And again, just thank you for being who you are and being just a great colleague of brilliant. The great American writer, reporter, and philosopher Mark Twain once shared his view of journalism by saying, if you don't read the newspaper, you're uninformed. If you read the newspaper, you're misinformed. Obviously, Mr. Twain embraced a satirical view of the media of his day. He might not be too surprised to witness the world of journalism in our 21st century. In a day and age where people are far more likely to get their version of the news from social media, blog sites, and Instagram than from traditional news outlets such as television or print media, it's increasingly difficult to determine what is really the news, as opposed to ideologically biased points of view. We live in a world where it's virtually impossible to distinguish facts from partisan opinions. Despite the ever-changing landscape of media and means of distribution, we should never underestimate the power of journalism to shape our culture and lives. The late, great American musician and poet Jim Morrison of The Doors said, "Whoever controls the media controls the mind." Throughout history, we have witnessed the power of the media and those who control the instruments of media to advance specific agendas and even manipulate entire populations for good or evil. As thinking individuals, each of us has the responsibility to determine how we consume media, how we choose to be motivated by the action, by the information we receive, and how we use this content to shape our opinions and actions. As citizens in a free society, we have the right to choose how to become informed on the issues that will impact our lives. We have to decide if that process of becoming informed will be limited to one point of view or several, often contradictory perspectives. I want to thank Andrew Douglas for joining our conversation today. Andrew has dedicated his life to presenting the news in a fair, open, and balanced perspective. Our community is a better place because of his passionate pursuit of journalistic excellence. One of my childhood heroes was another man whose life stood as a shining beacon of integrity and honesty in delivering the news that we needed to hear as Americans. Walter Cronkite was routinely hailed as the most trusted man in America. For nearly 2 decades, Uncle Walter served as the anchor of the CBS Evening News. He was the man who broke the news that President John F. Kennedy had been assassinated. We watched him share a very uncharacteristic bit of emotion when he described astronaut Neil Armstrong's first steps on the moon. And he was that somber voice that told us that Richard Nixon was resigning the presidency in disgrace. Walter Cronkite was the news. He once said that freedom of the press is not just important to democracy, it is democracy. Unfortunately, reporters like Andrew Douglas are becoming an endangered species. But for our democracy to long endure, we must continue to seek the truth, find the truth, and report the truth. And despite the inherent biases that can cloud the facts, each of us must find a way to find a common ground of truth to overcome the challenges of our world and seek the solutions to continue to progress America to be that more perfect union. In the words of Walter Cronkite, and that's the way it is. And that is my 2 cents. Until next time, I'm your host, David Pickler. Thank you for watching Bull TV, where together we deliver solutions for a stronger community.